Welcome back to Bespoke Addict. I've got a beautiful pair of correspondent shoes. They're English made, so these will be known as correspondents. If they were US made, they'd be called spectators, but they are the same thing. And they're in very nice original condition. I think they're from the 60s, but they're a bit dry, and you can see they're curling up. They should be straighter. This is what happens if you don't keep trees in them. But on this will be buckskin. It's absolutely filthy, and it looks like it's got some sort of whitener on there, but I don't believe that to be the case. I think it's just dust, and this will come up sort of cream, and it won't have any crunchy surface, but I've got to clean it very carefully. But there is the added risk of colour bleeding from the calf skin areas onto the buckskin. So as it happens, and luck would have it, it doesn't look to me like these have ever been polished. The reason I say that, if I bring it really close to the camera, if we look at the stitching's still cream. If these had had moisturizing colored cream or polish, it would have taken the white stitching away. So I don't believe they've ever been treated since leaving the works. They're English made, a company not particularly well known, Tebbit and Taylor. And they were rather known for, they didn't really retail from shops. They went and visited people in their own homes, mostly the country, like a country home. That's who they specialised, people that lived in the country, not sort of city clients that would be in a position to visit the store. They didn't, as far as I'm aware, didn't have shops. They visited the clients in their own home. So they're absolutely lovely, but they do need a bit of a stretch. They're a bit small on me. I can get them on my feet, but they're not comfortable. I'm going to stretch them a few millimeters, a little bit in length. The toes are very flat, so I need to raise those toes 4 or 5 millimeters. A little bit of a stretch across the vamp. I'm not going to do it all in one go. I'll do it over a period of weeks, and they're very misshapen. If we look inside, look, this is all bent. It should be nice and straight, but it's all bent. There's a crease in the lining. It's a bit dry, and the toes have the toes curling up. The vamp is collapsing. It would be much worse if these were regular calf skin. That would have probably cracked. But suede and buckskin very rarely cracks. But with tight fitting trees, I'll be able to sort of pull those back into shape. But I'm going to be shampooing the buckskin areas, try and clean that. But first things first, I'm going to start with a little bit of alcohol on let's just do this one shoe. I don't need to do them both on camera. I've got a toothbrush, which I'm going to use but I'm going to put one shoe out of the way. You don't need to see me do both, but let's just get a little bit of alcohol. This is isopropyl alcohol, and I get through quite a lot of this, and I'm going to clean the shoes with that. Cotton wool. Let's get a couple of pads from behind me, and I'm going to sort of douse them liberally with wet cotton wool, douse with alcohol. Try not to touch the lighter skin, because there will be some colour will come off on the pad. I don't want to get it there, so I need to be dressing it downwards. And then I'm going to use an aerosol shampoo, which is like foam. And there's no way of keeping it all. If I were using a liquid shampoo, I could just dip the toothbrush in the liquid and apply it to these areas only. But I want these shoes to stretch, so I need them to soften. The alcohol, and I'll be putting alcohol inside as well. I'll do that afterwards. Let's just get a little bit, and I can talk whilst I film it. So let's just take a little bit of the alcohol. Put this behind me without spilling it. I'm terrible for spilling these things. And I don't expect much to come off on the pad, but I just need to be absolutely sure that we haven't got polish. No, there isn't lots of polish like I thought. If these were polished, I'd have to keep going and going with the alcohol, because you've got to remove any sort of loose colour, any potential polish. Otherwise, the shampoo foam would soften it, and it would lift the polish, and we'd end up draining the polish from here onto the light areas, which obviously we don't want. But I'm going to, this is quite good. Like I thought, there's not much. There's no polish on these shoes. They've never been polished in maybe 60 odd years. They're remarkable survivors. They must have been stored quite carefully, even though they've not had shoe trees in them, which they do need. And I will be, dampening the skins and applying tight fitting trees that will take out any of the wrinkles and creases. But the stretchers I'll be using will do that by default. It is going to take a few weeks of stretching these skins. Let's do the bottom as well, because I'm going to be dampening the sole, so I want that to stretch very slightly too. I'm also going to put alcohol inside the shoe, but as you can see, there's nothing really coming off on the pad, so it's not too much of a worry that the colour is going to transfer onto the buckskin area. If I were not looking to stretch them, I would be taking the laces out, but I probably won't keep these laces. I'll just use these as donkey laces. I'll need the laces tight when I get the stretchers forced inside. Otherwise, when you try to do the width, it just opens here. So it has to be tied shut with an old set of laces. These look like the original laces, but I like flat laces. I don't particularly like round laces. These laces are in good condition, but I'm almost definitely going to replace them with laces that are flat, about 3mm wide, flat wax laces. Those kind of laces are a bit of a nuisance to live with, quite frankly. They're not low maintenance. They, excuse me, as you tie them, they tend to swivel. So you've got the flat and then all the lumpy knots. And then where you tie the knots, the wax gets broken off because they're sort of pressed flat and then they're sort of pressed with a wax. It's a bit like using hair gel to hold your hair. But as you tie them, the wax breaks and they become floppy. Round laces are just much easier to live with. But I like the appearance of flat laces. So I'm prepared to sort of tolerate the nonsense. Because it is nonsense, quite frankly. They are a lot of hassle. Flat laces are a lot of hassle. I don't recommend other people use them because they're just so much hassle, and you have to replace them so often because they soon get scruffy. As soon as the wax is broken away, which happens quite quickly, you just lose the integrity of the lace. Right, that should do. Let's get just get a little bit of this alcohol inside the shoe, because I might just pour it in. And we pop the lid back on the alcohol bottle. I really do want the shoes to be saturated with the alcohol inside. I want it to go all on the lining. Let's just get a bit of, where's my cotton wool? That'll do. Just need to get it all in the lining. I am going to start stretching them, and the shampoo will help with the stretching, and this alcohol as well. Yeah, the skins need to be softened with alcohol or possibly soapy water. But here we go. Let's just try and force one of my stretchers in. These are beautiful stretchers, two-way stretchers, the stretch length and the stretch width. Fabulous things. Quite difficult to find stretchers of this quality, to be honest. So these are a very, very generous gift from a friend in France. There we go. There's one in. I'm just going to sort of lace them up a little bit and then apply a bit of tension, not a lot. Then I'm going to squirt on the foam, the shampoo, so that it will have a two-pronged effect. It will help me to stretch the skins and it will clean the skin. But I do need these to be as tight as it's possible to get them. I don't want any tension going on this skin itself. I want the tension to be on the laces. So, all right. It's got the original soles, original heels, beautiful things. Right, let's just turn the length. I don't want to go mad. Bear in mind, the skin's still quite dry. Let's just get a bit of tension on it. You can hear it crackle when it starts to get tension. Just starting to crackle a little bit, and let's just get a bit of width tension. This is spreading. It's already stretched the length by about 10mm there. Not the length of the shoe. It's just taken up the slack. There's no stretch on the skin. I've just lengthened I wouldn't be able to pull that out now. But I'll probably end up, turning this over a period of days, wetting the skins with alcohol and turning the key a few more times. And eventually that will probably be about 15mm wide, and it will achieve about a 5mm stretch. And then same with the width. I'll turn this key. You just hear it crackling. I think the mic might pick that up. And when, yeah, it's just crackling very slightly. It's not really putting it under any tension at this stage. There we go. Yeah, that's starting to get a bit of tension now. So I'm going to stop. And I'm going to get the shampoo. And notice straight away the shoe's straight. Let me just show you the other one, how bent. You know, it's all curved up like a banana. And this one under tension's nice and straight. And that's how I'm going to keep them. And so this is just it's just an aerosol. It's a high street suede or buckskin cleaner. So you just shake it up and spray it on. It's literally like ice cream. It foams up, and you see how you can't really keep it off the tan areas. And if I'd not already removed any potential polish, you know, it would just transfer the polish onto the buckskin lighter colours, and we don't want that for obvious reasons. There we go. Need my toothbrush. Just a cheap toothbrush. You know, got it from the pound shop, I think. And just try and remain within the buckskin areas. You can use a much larger. Brush, a full-size shoe brush type thing. Perhaps something like this, if they were all one colour, if they were all suede. But with this brush, there is the risk that I will accidentally drag some colour from here onto there. And that's it really. There's really nothing else to cleaning suede or buckskin than what I'm doing here. But I'm just being very careful not to transfer. I do not want to be transferring colour. So I'll do this 2 or 3 times. And yeah, I'll do it 2 or 3 times today, and then I'll let them dry, and I will come back and brush up the nap. And yeah, it's certainly not going to. They're filthy. They really are filthy, and this is a very soft brush, and you know, I'm going quite easy on it. They're certainly going to take 2 or 3 applications. So there's one application. So the cream areas won't be treated I won't be treating with any colouring. I'm just going to shampoo them, let them dry, then use a stiffer brush to brush up the nap. Not a copper or a brass brush, because brass and copper oxidizes, and it gets like a black, it's almost like soot on the bristles. So when you rub that into this pail, it will transfer. Then the skin, the buckskin, will go black. It's just the copper or the brass oxidation. So I will be using a much stiffer toothbrush, or possibly a very, very small brush with plastic bristles. And there we go. Let's go for a. So this has came up quite well. It's cleaned up there, but it's still very dirty here. I don't know if the camera can pick up the difference in colour, but it's still dirty there. So I'm going to just give it another squirt. There's no great mystery, you know. It's and when I come to preparing the shoes afterwards, when this is dry and the nap's been brushed up, I'll very, very carefully use a coloured cream, just partly for the moisture and partly to revive the colour. And you know, I'll just be so careful not to get it contaminating this, because if you get the coloured cream on here, it'd be an absolute nightmare. In fact, I think I've got one of the creams to hand just behind me. Let's have a look. That's a bit light. I've got loads of them. I've got every colour. So, you know, I've got about 60 behind me. So I'll definitely have one that does turn out to be the right colour. Let's have a look at this one. Still too light, but you know, I'll go through and I'll match the colour and make sure that I apply it carefully. And when it's dry, I'll just buff it with a cloth, but I won't be applying a wax polish afterwards. So these things don't tend to look too great if they're too shiny. They look better with just a slight matte finish. So allow that to sink in for a little while. Let's just see if I can. Yeah. It just very, very patient. We're not transferring the colour because of the patience, and because there isn't a lot of polish on these shoes, or any, it's not transferring it. But invariably, shoes of this age have had 50 or 60 years worth of applications of polish. put on the calf skins, and quite frankly, it all has to come off before you could do this bit and just spray on any shampoo. The shampoo would soften and allow the polish to move and contaminate the lighter areas. But that's it really. I don't really need to show you anything else. I am going to do this again, but you don't need to see me do it on camera. I've just done it twice on camera. It's a very repetitive process, and it will take a day or two for them to dry. And I will brush up the nap with a very, with another toothbrush, but with extremely hard bristles. This has got soft bristles, just because the nap will be hard and a bit just flat. It's supposed to have a fluffy edge to it, so it feels velvety. And that's what I mean when I say brush up the nap. There is some colour difference in there, but I'm not sure if that's dirt that's lying in there or it's the wet itself, with the skin being wet. When it dries, I'll be able to have a better idea. But nonetheless, I'm still going to give it a third application of the foam. And whilst the skins are wet, I'm going to just apply a bit more tension. When they're dry, the skins just tear. Starting to creak. That's it. I think that's enough. Yeah. So once that's dried, it will stay there. So when you can wet the skins again and stretch them a little bit further, just stretch the width just a millimetre or so. Doesn't pay to try and do it all in one go because they will burst 100%. If you just go, these things would just keep going and going until it destroyed the skin. They're very powerful, but you can, if you're holding it as you turn the key, you can feel if the skin's moving or not. And there's a sound, like a clicking sound. It's just moving now. That's it. I'm going to stop. And I'm going to allow that to dry. It's only a fraction. I've moved the skins just a fraction. Let it dry. Reapply the alcohol inside and out. Then apply more tension. And I'll almost definitely shampoo them. Well, I'm going to shampoo them a third time now. And I'll almost definitely shampoo them again and again. As I'm stretching them, I'll use the shampoo to soften the skins. So eventually they'll be completely clean and they'll be the size that will fit me. But let me just apply one more application. Get the skins nice and wet. Because the wetter the skins become, the softer they are, the easier they stretch without bursting. Last thing you want to do, this foam is full of alcohol. It's got isopropyl alcohol in it. And I've also been using it neat out of the bottle. So yeah, there we go. There we go. Let's just one more little brush. Then I will stop and I will just let the shoes dry naturally. And I'll come back to them in 24 hours or so. I'll almost definitely be making further videos showing the next stages, but I won't show any more stretching or any more, because this stretching will take at least a couple of weeks. Every day or two, just wet them with the shampoo and apply a little bit more tension with the stretchers. And only when they're the right size and shape will I be removing them and applying a little bit of cream, just coloured moisturising cream to the darker areas. But they are lovely things. I'm actually preparing for sale a very similar pair made by Foster & Son. They're lovely, but they're a bit big for me, and I am going to be selling them. And these make a perfect replacement. These are a bit small for me, but I'm going to make them fit me without destroying them, of course. And they're just lovely. These are a nice replacement for a pair that I am going to be selling. So to most people, both the pairs of shoes look the same. They're not the same, but they look the same, and I'll be very happy with these as a replacement for the Fosters that I'm about to part with. I did believe when I saw these on a photograph that they were made by Edward Green. The reason I believed that is that semicircle here. Edward Green always put a semicircle on their shoes, but seen up closely, it's slightly different. It's a similar shape, but there is like a little triangle texture inside from the tooling wheel, and Edward Green doesn't do that. But I've done a little bit of research on this maker, Tebbit and Taylor, I think it was, and yeah, they weren't a huge maker, and they worked sort of privately rather than from industrial premises. Right, not industrial premises, retail premises. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to wipe off any residue on the brown areas before it dries, because it does appear to have little bits of sort of white colouring. Actually, I'm not sure whether it is a colouring or whether it's just fragments of the fibres. But either way, I'm going to wipe it clean. Right. I'm going to stop here because this is getting really rather long, and there's nothing more to this. I'll repeat this process again and again and again, maybe 10 times, just stretching the width, stretching the length, and then I'll bring it back to camera when it's stretched and it's ready to buff up the nap, to brush up the nap, and to recolour these areas. So it'll probably be a couple of weeks until you get to see these again.